Hello and welcome to the Horti-Culturalists. I'm Stephen Ryan.
And I'm Matthew Lucas, and we post a video every Friday, so do hit the subscribe button and notification bell if you want to know when our missive leaps into your inbox every week.
Yes, exactly. And if you've got a question you'd like to ask me, don't forget to put it in the comments section below and we will answer your questions on our Monday shorts.
We won't, he will. I'll just read them out. But
Yeah.
Stephen, what is this large spiky thing behind us and what's going on?
All right. Well, today we're at a friend Sue's garden.
Yes.
And we're looking at agaves.
Oh, which are incredible. Now, agaves are agave, tomato.
Yeah, well, it is a bit like that. Is it narine or narini? Or is it, the E possibly should be pronounced.
In Spanish, you would say agave, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yes, you probably would. So let us assume it's agave, and during this whole episode, I'll probably vacillate from one to the other. So it's just what it is. But yes, probably agave, but lots of people just say agave.
Now, before we go and meet Sue, and she's going to talk us through her collection, where are they from?
All right.
What's going on with them as a group of plants?
All right, as a group of plants, they're quite a large genus, and they extend from well up into North America, right down through Mexico and into Central America and even northern South America. So they are basically restricted to that central sort of area between the Americas.
And we've done a film in Sue's garden about aloes. Of course, from a distance and to the untrained eye, they do look similar.
Yeah, although the flowers are quite separately
Very
different.
Yeah, but from the foliage perspective.
Oh yeah, they do, and people often get the two groups of plants confused. But of course, the aloes are all South African into Madagascar, and then there's one or two that extend up further. And they also have a sticky, slimy, bitter sap, which is in fact where the word aloe comes from the Aramaic for a bitter, sticky sap. And of course, aloe vera is one of those plants.
Stephen, this is a story about agaves. Why didn't we talk about this in our aloe story?
I don't know. It just happened. So what can I say? So
there's a bit of an aloe sidebar, but let's get back to agaves.
Yeah. Well, the one behind us is actually quite an interesting one because it's one of the bigger growing ones. And it's the one they get sisal from.
Oh,
so the sisal rope and the sisal matting and the
that?
Yeah, from that. So I've seen it grown as a crop in southern Madagascar, and they cut the leaves, they take them back, and the leaves are pulverized to expose the fibers that are within it, and then they're cleaned and then dried. So you see them hanging over racks like spaghetti, and they turn it into sisal string.
My goodness! Now talking about Madagascar, of course, you take garden tours there. We've got a whole garden tour playlist, but we haven't made a film about Madagascar yet. So
give me time. Yes, I've just got to do another trip back there.
Along.
Yeah, I've just got to do another trip back there, and then we will have some films about Madagascar as well.
But all right, I think what we should do now is go and meet the fabulous garden owner and just find out a bit more about her passion for agaves agave.
All right, Sue, it's great to be back amongst your plants again, and today we're going to talk about another really major succulent group of plants that Sue's got a pretty good collection of, and I'll ask you in a minute how many you think you've got. But I know that agave is a group of plants that come mainly from Central South America and up into North America, and apparently there's 299 accepted wild species.
One will be discovered to make it 300.
Yeah, well, undoubtedly. Now, Sue, how many do you reckon you've got in this amazing group of plants?
I reckon I've got about 80 different sort.
Well, that's pretty good. And would most of those be species, or would there be some hybrids amongst them?
About half and half.
Half and half.
Now, you're on, how big a property have you got
It's 3 acres, so 1 hectare.
3 acres. Which species is this?
Hurteri.
That's
it would be it would hurt.
Big plant. Now you've got 3 acres, so you can manage big things.
Yes.
Are there any of them that are much smaller?
Tiny little ones you can get, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could have some that would just sit in a 4-inch pot.
Exactly, yes.
So they're an amazing group of plants.
Right.
Now, I know that some of them flower and die. Is hurteri one of those?
Monocots.
That's called a monocarp. Well done, Matt.
I believe it is, but I have one agave that has flowered 3 times and has not died. And it's the only one. Every other agave I've had that's flowered has died.
Yeah, because sometimes they have lots of offsets, but the
Yes.
main plant will die after flowering.
That's right.
But in the case of this one, it doesn't look particularly hopeful that if it goes to flower.
I've had no babies at all from it, so
Yeah.
it will be
So
very
it could be a
interesting.
mixed blessing when it goes to flower.
Very handsome form.
So they come from fairly hot, dry climates as a rule, although there's some that come
Some
from
of
the
them,
tropical.
that actually come from where it snows.
Yeah. So some of these would cope with
Some of
exceedingly
them
cold
can
weather.
have snow on the top.
So yes, they're not your classical desert succulent in a
No.
way.
Well, on that note, just further up, and we'll show these to the viewers, there are quite a few that are in what I would consider quite deep shade for
Yes.
any kind of cacti succulent agave.
Well,
Yeah.
this one itself is actually.
And this one's in full shade.
Yeah, this one's underneath a huge big native and probably doesn't get any direct sunlight on it at all.
And a lot up the other end of the block don't either, no. So I've got some in full sun and some in part shade, and I haven't had any problems with any agaves that I've had to change positions on.
Ah,
How
so
do you know? Is it just trial and error?
It is trial and error, yes.
well, that's
Something
what.
that big, it's a big trial.
Yeah, well, you're not going to move that in a hurry, I don't think. So if you weren't right with your positioning of that one, you're not going to shift
Well,
it now.
when that was first planted, that was in full sun because the acacia wasn't that big.
Of course, it's a beautiful acacia.
Yeah, so it's grown up since, but the agave doesn't seem to have been particularly
No.
perturbed by the change of climate.
Not at all.
Now, in our film that we made here about your amazing aloe collection, we were talking about there's like a peak flowering season, but there's a few that flower all year. With these, which are often monocarpic, is there a given moment, or can they decide to flower whenever? What are the
Majority of my agaves that flower here, you'll see the stem come up before winter.
Yeah.
And you think, oh no, the winter's going to kill it. And then over winter it just stops. And then after winter that flower stem starts again. And then it's in flower generally in spring and
And
summer.
so the seeds would drop in spring.
Some of them have seed, others have little bulbils.
Oh yes, that's the other thing.
So-
Some of the agaves get the little tiny
Tiny
bulbils
little-
up the stem and they drop off like furcrea.
I was about
Remember
to say, yes.
we did a
Yes,
story
very,
about
very
furcrea.
And that's in your garden, and that had the
Yeah, we had masses of bulbils that fell to the
Yes,
ground and then
yes.
you ended up with gazillions
Hundreds.
of them.
yeah.
Yeah. Unlike things like aloes, agaves are not reliant on in gardens for their flowering, and as we've just mentioned, many of them die after flowering anyway. But is there much variation in the flower colours and forms in the agaves?
Very similar, it's more the height of the stem
Yeah.
of the flower that can be quite, 2-3 metres, or you can get them 5-6 metres
Yeah.
high. But they're all generally a creamy flower.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they're all in that
Yeah.
sort of flower colour. So it's about shape, form, texture, foliage, colour is why you grow most of this group.
Yes,
Yeah.
and drought tolerant.
Yeah, and they're very drought tolerant.
All right, we're going to go and explore. Now, is there anything we should see?
Yes, if you've got a specific one that we should go
Out of
and
all
visit.
your children.
Yeah.
Yes, there is one.
Yes.
Yes. Beautiful blue one. It's light blue. It was only supposed to be small, but it's grown a lot bigger than what it should have.
What's his name?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you, sorry.
It's over there.
Okay, we'll go and have a look.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
Yes, thank
worries,
you.
No worries.
Okay, Sue. Now, what is the name of your favourite agave?
Okay, so this one is Agave parryi, variety patonii.
Yeah. And
It's probably about 12 years old.
wow.
It was never supposed to be growing this big. When I bought it, it was only supposed to be about 50 centimetres, it told me. But as you
about
can
that
see,
big.
it's not 50 centimetres.
No, it is certainly not. It is incredibly beautiful, but very
Vicious.
vicious. And the
Very
leaves are as stiff as plywood.
Yes,
It's got a very beautiful sort of grey-blue line down the
Yes,
edge.
where all of the
where they've
the leaves
unwrapped
have
as
been-
they've come out. Yes.
Yeah,
See, that's the imprint of the leaf above.
it's beautiful. So what is it about this that you love?
The colour of it.
Yeah,
Like the majority of agaves are a darker green,
yeah.
but this one is the only one I have that's alive now. That is a lighter colour. I have had beautiful ones that have been a brighter blue, but of course, once they flower, they die.
And if they don't produce offsets.
No,
Do
nothing.
we know where this one comes from, Sue?
It says
Mexico.
Mexico, Steve, on the
I
label.
read the label, yeah. So it's a Mexican species, and it seems to be perfectly happy here with whatever the...
Very
Right,
happy with
so-
both the heat and the cold.
So, I mean, on that point, Mexico has hot, dry climates, but it also has like
Has
full-on
cold and-
tropical
yes.
as well.
And also
Yes.
cold mountain climates.
Yes.
So are the agaves from each of those hot, dry, mountainous, cool, tropical conditions.
I'm not sure about the tropical.
I wouldn't
I
have
think they
thought
are
so.
from the others, but yeah,
Yeah.
not sure about the tropical.
Interesting.
But it is, it's a remarkable plant. And it would certainly be very good for keeping burglars out.
Yes, definitely. Speaking
let's go
from
and look at-
experience.
We'll go and look at more.
Yes.
Stephen, this leapt out at both of us.
Yeah.
Just look at the
In fact,
habit.
quite almost literally leapt out at.
Yeah.
This is one of the agaves or agaves, and it's from Mexico. And this is the first time it's flowered for Sue. It's one called dealbata or dasylirioides is its synonym. And of course, it's flowering and showing no sign of any offsets. And I'm assuming this droopiness of the flower spike is normal. And it has the most wonderful bracts all the way along it. The flowers are a limey green.
Yeah, they're really beautiful.
They're lovely, and it's a really handsome plant. So it'll be interesting to see whether this particular one either sets some offsets before it dies, or whether Sue can collect some seed from it to get another plant going, because this could be the end of the line.
But just the colour of the foliage, the colour of the stem, and then the completely different colour of the flowers,
Yeah.
3 different colours. What a handsome, striking plant.
It is, it's remarkable. I think it's a great thing to see, because we might not see one in bloom again for a long time.
Okay, on to the next.
All right.
Now, this has caught my eye, Stephen.
Well,
Because
actually, it could take an eye
I
out.
could take you out.
Yeah.
That flower spike
Is
it's like-
impressive.
it's 3 stories tall.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. And look at the size of the plant it's come from, which is less probably than a metre in height. And so this particular agave, of course, is coming to the end of its term. There's some babies around the base, so it will keep going.
Yeah.
But the original one will die after flowering, as far as I know, they all do. So once an agave goes to bloom, its whole plant will die. But the stem it sent up is remarkable.
I seem to remember Sue saying she's had a couple of agaves that haven't died after they
Yeah,
planted.
but that's sort of the exception, not the rule. And it's probably the individual plant, not the species. So ordinarily they would all go after flowering.
So here's the thing. This one is Agave geminiflora, which is really fashionable in Australia at the moment as a landscape plant. I guess the thing to remember is it's going to die.
But then we all do. So,
Stephen.
So,
thanks.
I mean, it does make me laugh, though. You can have this very handsome agave in the garden for years. Then you'll have this incredible flower eruption that will come out of it, which is just remarkable.
And it's so striking and sculptural.
And of course, you'll go out and buy a punnet of petunias without expecting more than 12 months out of them. So,
Okay, I'm trying to
well,
join
because-
those dots.
Yeah, because this will last for many years before it dies, and people complain, whereas they'll buy their tomato seedlings or their petunia seedlings and expect nothing more than a year out of them. This you'll get quite some years out of it before it decides to flower, and when it does, it goes out with a bang.
With quite a bang.
Yep.
And it looks very different to the other agaves that we've seen.
Yeah,
It
much
actually-
finer.
It looks a little bit like the Australian Xantheria, like a
Yeah.
grassy type of thing.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't have the classical big broadleaf that you expect of agave, but it just proves the point that there's so much diversity in this genus, from little tiny wee things about so big up to tall flowering things like that, and then the really broad-leafed ones which make very dramatic landscape plants.
Yeah. Now, there's something that I detest just along here.
Let's go and
Let's
engage
go.
with that then, because I know I'll love it.
And that is variegated agaves.
Yeah. Well, Matthew, at least they have the good sense to be bold and variegated.
There's that one.
Yeah, and then
there's
there's
that
that one.
one.
How's that?
I must say, though, okay, they are actually amazing. And the contrast with that Ionium.
Yeah, perfect.
quite
Sue,
stunning.
Sue has obviously picked the colours specifically to do that.
okay.
So it's the variegated form of Agave Americanus, aureopicta. It's big, it's bold, and it's a bit over the top
Beautiful.
with growing babies. And Sue tells me a lot of the babies don't come up variegated. So you've got to be very selective what you keep. So it is probably a comparatively high maintenance agave to grow in the garden, but it's certainly very spectacular. All right, you can see the aureopicta pup there, but you can see this one over here is just going to be a straight green one.
All right, Stephen, we're in the shade because we
Yes.
did make this point when we were talking to Sue. She had to move a lot of hers, and here we have agaves under the shade of a wattle tree.
Yes.
Literally, I'd say quite deep shade. flowering.
Yes, they've gone into flower, so they're reaching the end of their cycle, but they're growing surprisingly well in a spot where there's virtually no direct sunlight.
Yeah, I'm amazed.
So there you go.
So this one that's just behind our variegated friends.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
This is like it's made out of, I don't know, wood of some.
Steel or something.
Yeah, it's remarkable. This is Agave salmiana, and it is a truly monstrous beast, and I've fallen in love with it. I think it's remarkable.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have as many spikes along the edges of the leaves like some of them. It still has a pretty vicious one right on the end, but it is a beautiful silvery grey. I love the lines on the leaves where the previous leaves have dropped down from. They always leave a sort of an indentation or a line on them. Yeah. The whole plant is like a piece of sculpture. It is just amazing.
It's stunning. Now, what was Sue pointing out?
Oh, yes, there's a weirdness happening here because agaves normally send up a flower spike from the centre, and that's the end of that rosette as a rule. But this one, for whatever reason, is sending up a sort of a lateral flower spike, which is something almost unheard of in this group of plants. So it'll be interesting to see whether it comes to anything. And it does mean, of course, that the longevity of the main crown has been extended, so it hasn't gone to flower yet.
Well,
so
that's amazing, amazing. Yeah. Well, I have loved this romp through the prickly fields of agave.
Yep, they're a wonderful group of plants. Not everybody's taste, I guess, and people are often a bit scared of things that are prickly and a bit vicious. They are wonderful sculptural plants. They work really well in dry gardens. They work fabulously with modern architecture. Yeah. So if you're looking for something outside your steel, concrete and glass house, these could be perfect. And yes, I think they need to be revisited by most gardeners. They were very popular once upon a time. I think they deserve to come back again.
And they're still very popular. I mean, in Melbourne, which has much more rainfall than Sue's garden, and a lot of them do incredibly well in and around Melbourne. So they can obviously take a bit more water, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, as long as there's drainage, they'll take a bit more water. And in fact, they'll possibly grow faster where they're getting a little bit more irrigation. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, who knows? But yeah, I think they're a wonderful group.
Oh, well, I've loved this. And once again, thank you, Sue, for allowing us to wander around your garden and scream and demand you to tell us what these things are. And Sue also made us lunch and endless cups of tea, so many thanks. And if you are interested in organising a tour to this garden...
Yeah, you can't just come to this garden, but groups could organise a tour here, so it could be done. So get in touch with me and I'll put you on to Sue.
There you go. Now, if you want to know what we're doing next week, you'll have to hit subscribe.
And don't forget, if you've got a burning question, put it in the comments below and we get to answer those questions in our Monday shorts.
We do. So we look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye all.